Hello, my name is Liza Elise, or Caffeine Misery, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the decks that came out in Divine Set 12, Chasm of Lost Souls, that being Brawler Big Bang Knuckle Dragon. Brawler is an encounter unit from Narukami, so it's mainly going to be focused on doing a lot of hitting the entire front row, a lot of damage by doing that. Other than that, it's a D-Legion unit, which means it can go into the Legion state via the D-Legion skill, which we'll get into shortly. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the ride line. Of course, we're going to be on the in Archetype 0 for the very rare off chance that having the name and soul comes up. And then the Grade 1 Tonfa Brawler Arc, who, when placed on Vanguard Circle by revealing a Grade 3 Brawler from your ride deck, you get to look at the top 7 cards of the deck for a non-sentinel unit with only one clan and add to hand. The reason it's written like that is so that anything that ends up being generic for encounters like Bellicosity Dragon can be added off the skill. Going to our Grade 2, we're actually on Thunderstorm Dragoon, which is the Grade 2 for Dragon Kaiser Vermilion's ride line, who, when rode upon by a Narukami, gets to select the top 7 and add a Narukami from amongst them to hand. Technically, he can also add the Draconic Kaiser Vermilion order, but that's never going to come up because you're never playing that in Brawler. Of course, our Grade 3 is the current only Grade 3 Brawler, Brawler Big Bang Knuckle Dragon. Here's the D-Legion ability, which means by shuffling back 4 cards from drop, with a maximum of 2 of them being triggers that are not heals or the OT, you can search your deck for the Brawler Big Bang Slash Dragon and place it on the Vanguard Circle with Big Bang Knuckle Dragon. Both of those are your Vanguards now, and their powers are combined. On that, he has another act ability that for a single Soul Blast, you and your opponent reveal the top cards of your deck. He'll gain 5k, and depending on what's revealed, if your card as the Brawler player either has the highest grade or is a Brawler, your Vanguard gets a critical. And then you add your reveal card to your hand, and your opponent puts theirs on the bottom of their deck. Lastly, he's also got a continuous ability that as long as you're in D-Legion, the front row gets 5k. And if you D-Legion during this specific turn, he'll be able to battle all of your opponent's units at once. Going into the main deck, we're on 3 more copies of him, because being able to cycle through and re-D-Legion every turn so you can attack your opponent's front row every time is very important. He is our only Grade 3. So going into our Grade 2, we've got Brawler Big Bang Slash Dragon, its mate unit, who has the auto ability that once placed on Vanguard Circle, you either reveal a Big Bang Slash in your ride deck, or if you have or Big Bang Knuckle in your ride deck. If you do, or you have a Big Bang Knuckle Vanguard, you can Soul Blast one to draw a card. And if Slash Dragon is placed by the D-Legion ability, your opponent has to move up one of their back row units if there's an open front rear guard circle. And you get all of your front row units get 5k until end of turn. You also have a when placed on rear guard circle skill to counterblast 1 to draw a card. And on the rear guard circle during your turn, as long as the Vanguard's Grade 3 or greater, for each of your Vanguards, it gets 5k. So if you have 2, because you're in the Legion state, you'll get 2. Continuing on through our Grade 2s, I'm on 3 copies of Brawler Wallace Dragon, who can be called from drop for a single counterblast if you have a Brawler Vanguard. And on Van or Rearguard Circle, when your Grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Brawler attacks, as long as your other unit didn't restand this battle phase, you can counterblast 1 to restand it, and it'll gain 10k until end of turn. And during the turn, your Vanguard during your turn, as long as your Vanguard is D-Legion, it gets +5. You'll notice that the second skill is on Vanguard Circle. That's because Wildfist Dragon is originally a mate unit for a different Brawler Legion. Moving out of our Narukami Grade 2s, we're on 4 copies of Bellicosity Dragon, who only has these skills as long as your Vanguard has 1 skill and you don't have any cards in your D-Zone. The first one being that when he's placed on Rearguard Circle for 3 energy, put a card from hand or soul, you get to draw 2. And when your Vanguard attacks, he gets 5k until end of turn. Notably, when you attack in D-Legion, that is 2 Vanguards attacking, so he'll get 10 off that swing. Continuing through our grade 2s, we're also on 4 copies of Dragon Vortex Belly Giacro, who is probably one of the greatest DE sport cards to ever exist. When he's discarded for ride, or when he's discarded during the ride phase, he can be called at rest, or if you're on a grade 2 or greater Vanguard, or have a Diamond Dragon Vanguard, you can call him a stand instead. When you're on grade 3, he's a booster and get yourself from the back row, and when your opponent is on grade 3, he's a 10k shield. He's just a very generically good unit to have in rotation. On that run, 3 copies of Lizard Soldier Yunjin, who, when he attacks, as long as you have a Coda Blaze Vanguard or a Vanguard with only 1 clan, you can pick a grade 2 or less card from drop with a different name from itself and put it to soul. Then he'll get an extra 5 of the opponent's grade 3 or greater. Other than that, at the end of the battle, you attack, you can counterblast 1, draw a card, and either put Yunjin to soul or bind it. This helps you retain your soul a lot, which shouldn't really be that much of an issue with Bellicosity and with riding back into Big Bang Knuckle, because we get 2 cards in soul from that. But it's good to have the extra soul along with that. It's just an extra draw, and that's always good, especially with this deck only using 1 counterblast a turn on the Wild Fist, so you have it available. Finishing out the grade 2 cards, the regardless piece of choice I'm on is Union in the Sky, which can be played with CB1 or EB3. You draw a card and remove it and give your Vanguard plus 15 until end of battle, and then you can bind a card of the same name as your Vanguard from soul or drop and give an extra 25 instead of extra 15 as a blitz order. And it can be discarded for ride and to draw a card by paying Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3 and removing it. So the reason I'm choosing this is because that 25k is going to happen a lot more often, just because you, instead of having 3 other copies, you have 6. You have the 3 extra Big Bang Slash, because you're going to have 1 on Vanguard Circle, and then the 3 Big Bang Knuckles. Going to our grade 1s, I'm on 4 copies of Threatening Brawler Kome, who, when placed on rear, as long as you have a grade 3 or greater Brawler Vanguard, your opponent cannot intercept, which means your full front row attack will just hit everything. And at the end of the battle, it boosts the Vanguard with Brawler. You can toss some soul to check the top 7 cards of the deck. Pick 1 card with the same card name as your Vanguard, so your Big Bang Knuckle or Big Bang Slash. Put it in hand, then shuffle. He's helping you deck thin a little bit and stopping your opponent from getting rid of the units that would be hit by the Vanguard and putting them to use early. And the reason that's important is the Spark Spike Dragon, which, as long as you have a Narukami Vanguard, is only Narukami. As the continuous ability that, as long as you have a Vanguard with only Narukami, all of your other Vanguards in the same column get 5. Or if the Vanguard's attack hit 2 or more times this turn, they're going to get 10 instead. And at the end of the battle, the boost, as long as the Vanguard's attack hit 2 or more times, you can EB3 to draw a card. It's draw engine and makes your units powerful. I'm also on 1 copy of Battle Monk of Water Scales Ryuto, who, when he boosts the Vanguard, as long as the opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, he gets an extra 5k. On that, when the battle he boosts hits, you can retire him to counter charge 1, and at the end of the battle he boosted, for a single counterblast and retiring him, you can search the deck for a card of the same name as your Vanguard and add it to hand. The reason I'm only on 1 is because you only really need 1. He doesn't come up that often because you don't actually go through a lot of counterblast throughout the course of the game. It comes up in the way late game, and you have ways to search with Kome, and you can easily recycle Ryuto by delegioning again. Right now, our grade 1s are, of course, perfect cards. Going into the trigger lineup, I'm on 8 criticals, 3 of the shield fronts, which, fun fact for those of you who are unfamiliar with D-Legion, which I would be surprised if no one is at this point, since this is a unit, it'll be 20k to the Vanguards. For our heals, I'm on 4 copies of the lower grade counter heals, which are 10k heals normally, but when opponent guard circle, if your Vanguard's grade is less than your opponent's Vanguard's grade, it gets an extra 10k. And the reason for this is you're always going to be on a grade 2 Vanguard with Big Bang Slash as the mate unit, so this is always a 20k guard. And of course, it's Dragon Empire. I'm on Drag Veda as the OT. So this deck has a lot of survivability through the Legion mechanic. You get to put back the offensive triggers, and you get to put back some of your units, so you're never really at risk of decking out. It's got a lot of power behind it, because just off of D-Legion alone, your front row is probably getting 10k individually for each Vanguard. Those are going up 20 combined. Your Wild Fist is going up an extra 5k based on its own skill. Bellicosity is going to be going up another 10, plus the 10 from both of their skills, so that's another 20. So you're getting a lot of pretty big numbers without a lot of effort. You're getting rid of your opponent's rear guards pretty often. And you're restricting their use of intercepts because of cards like Kome. And because you don't really go through a lot of counterblast, cards like Yunjin, where you just get a draw for using him, are very nice. You've got... the only cards that use energy are your Spark Spike and your Bellicosity. And Unit Sky, but that's going to be a one-time use, so that's fine. And again, that can use counterblast too, which you're not really struggling with. So much of the cost of the deck is in the soul, which you can burn through a lot in a turn, but you can very quickly rebuild that soul just by rewriting the next turn with Yenjin, with Kome. This deck keeps its resources pretty consistent. The biggest issue is, despite hitting all these numbers with relatively low effort, it doesn't have a lot of extra guard to kind of survive to hit the point. Since you can only D-Legion when your opponent's on grade 3, you don't really get the chance to put the pressure up early before your opponent's on a position where they can, where you can really take advantage of that much pressure. Nothing in Archetype has extra guard. The only cards in the deck that are bigger guards than normal are going to be Bilgeal Crows at 10k. And then you've got 2 20k guard triggers. And the biggest thing, in my opinion, the thing that makes this, it's kind of a hard sell, is despite the power it has, it really doesn't keep up with all the top decks. If they get a little bit ahead, you can't really come back from it without getting some really good triggers. You always have the extra crit from Big Bang Knuckle, but your opponent's almost always PGing that anyways. But this is my brawler list. If you guys like the video, you like my channel, you just like listening to me yap, go ahead, do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. And I will see y'all next time. Ciao.